Gone Girl is a thriller novel with psychological aspects written by Gillian Flynn and published in 2012. David Fincher directed its film adaptation in 2014, whose script was edited by the author, starring Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike, who played the married couple formed by Nick and Amy. After the wedding, they moved to Nick's hometown in Missouri to be with his sick mother. After the move, they lost their jobs. Amy became a housewife and Nick started teaching journalism in college. He also bought a bar with Amy's savings, which he ran with his sister Margot. On the day of their 5th wedding anniversary, Nick Dunn comes back home and discovers that his wife is missing. The press immediately starts talking about it because Amy is the main character of a popular children's series created by her parents, two psychologists from New York. After Amy's disappearance, the investigation is entrusted to Detective Rhonda Bonney, who, during the first inspection, finds evidence of a struggle in Amy and Nick's house. A murder is immediately suspected and Nick is under suspicion. Before her disappearance, Amy kept a diary that she updated day by day, and it was through this diary that the details of her life and her relationship with Nick surfaced. According to her words, the marriage has entered a crisis after the moving. In addition, Amy judged Nick to be lazy, distant, and unfaithful, words that only disadvantage men's position. Nick's position is made worse by Detective Bonney's investigation, who discovers the couple's frequent fights and also that Amy was planning to buy a gun. Moreover, she also learns from a medical report that Amy was pregnant, a new information for Nick as well. Following these revelations, Nick, who sees himself cornered, hires a lawyer specialized in defending men accused of killing their wives, Tanner Bolt, who manages to convince his sister Margot of the man's innocence. Meanwhile, Amy, while everyone is unaware of where she is and whether she is still alive, is hiding in a residence. Her escape and the staged kidnapping are a part of her revenge on her husband, who she resents for the failed marriage, the moving to Missouri, and Nick's cheating on her with one of his students. Continuing the story, it is revealed the meticulousness with which Amy had organized the revenge, leaving nothing to chance. The diary, for example, was carefully written to put her husband Nick in the spotlight as guilty. The couple on the anniversary usually goes on a treasure hunt. In the 5th year of marriage, Amy spreads the clues and makes sure Nick finds them. Her goal is to have him arrested for her murder so he can be sentenced to death. However, the woman's plans are messed up while she is at the residence, after the neighbors steal all her money. For this reason, she turns to Desi, a man who was obsessed with her and who had been reported for stalking. She tells him that she's afraid of her husband and has run away, and he gives her shelter in his lake house. At the same time, Nick's lover reveals their affair at a press conference, and the man decides to appear on a talk show to proclaim himself innocent and apologize for his mistakes as a cheating husband. The aim is to attract the public sympathy. At this point, however, the murder weapon is found in the fireplace of Nick and Amy's house. It was Amy who placed it there, but the charges are brought against Nick, who is arrested. After seeing Nick on television, Amy decides she wants to go back home to him. So she stages a kidnapping by Desi, injuring and creating signs of abuse on herself. She then uses the house surveillance cameras to her advantage, making it look as if the man has held her hostage and is abusing her. The woman's plan culminates one night when, during a sexual intercourse, she kills him and then returns home to Nick covered in blood. Nick is then automatically cleared of all charges, and although Amy wrote in a diary that she fears her husband, she says she wants to forgive him. The woman manages to convince everyone of her story, including Agent Bonney and members of the FBI. Back home, Amy tells Nick the truth and asks him to stay by her side. On the one hand, she's still attracted to him. On the other hand, if they break up, she knows that she could be suspected of Desi's death. Nick then tells Bonnie everything, inviting the police to investigate to prove Amy's guilt. Bonnie, however, can no longer go any further, since the case has become federal and has been officially closed. At that point, Nick is scared, realizing he's married to a psychopath, and he wants to leave her publicly. But she reveals that she got pregnant with him through artificial insemination. Nick is passive-aggressive to his wife's desire to stay married, and feels the responsibility of the child on his shoulders, as well as the eyes of the press on him. In the end, despite his sister's contrary opinion, the man decides to stay with Amy. What you see at the end of the movie is that the couple stay together despite all the lies, providing a complex insight of their victim-predator relationship. In the book, the author has described in detail the personalities of the main characters, as well as the gloomy atmosphere that forms the background to the story. The protagonist, Nick Dunn, appears as is outlined in the novel, apathetic, overwhelmed by events, incapable of reacting and even masochistic. In fact, despite everything, he decides to stay with his wife. Nick's wife, Amy, is cold, manipulative, calculating, and vindictive. It takes months to plan the revenge for her husband. A particular aspect of this movie is the attention shown to the color palette, adapted to the narrative by the cinematographer Jeff Cronenweth. The colors are applied to the cinematographic image using special filters to give the movie a precise chromatic expressiveness in order to show the viewer the precise psychological condition of the characters. The film adaptations of recent years have not been completely able to give back the same sensations of the book. In Gone Girl, the transition from book to image has instead obtained an extremely satisfactory result. However, there are some changes set up with Gillian Flynn herself. In the book, there is a scene in which Nick tries for the umpteenth time to get the public opinion in his favor, telling a blogger named Rebecca how much he loves his wife. In the movie, this scene is not present, but a similar scene is Nick's appearance on a talk show under the advice of his lawyer Tanner Bolt. Speaking of Tanner Bolt, there are many characters missing in the book, including the lawyer's wife. Are also missing Desi's mother and a friend of Amy from high school, who she falsely accused of stalking. In addition to the missing characters, there are some who were not given much importance in the movie. An example is Nick's father, who participates in his son's life in the book, but he only appears once in the movie. In the book, he is the protagonist of a Nick's monologue, who declares that he doesn't want to become as cold and inconstant as he is.